Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's CITI program webinar. Today's webinar is Decentralized Clinical Trials and Your Workforce and is presented by Kimberly Ray. Just a few quick notes. This webinar will be recorded and the recording will be available on the CITI program's website. The webinar is also for educational purposes only. It is not designed to provide legal advice or legal guidance. You should consult with your organization's attorneys if you have questions or concerns about the relevant laws and regulations that may be discussed in this webinar. In addition, the views expressed in the webinar are solely those of the presenter. Now, let me tell you about today's presenter. Kimberly has more than 30 years experience in clinical research. She retired from IQVIA where she was vice president of site and patient networks and successfully led IQVIA's own site network, Avacare. Ms. Ray is an advisory board member for Kids for Life. Currently, she is consulting with a number of healthcare companies. In 2020, she led a working group for ACRP focused on how decentralized clinical trials, as well as trials that require significant use of technology, are affecting the workforce. And now I'm going to pass the mic to Kimberly.
We all know that use of technology in clinical research is increasing, especially with a global pandemic. This is even more pronounced for decentralized trials. Today, I will describe some technology typically used in decentralized trials, or DCTs. I will talk about how use of technology is impacting traditional clinical research jobs. I'll identify any new skills needed in this new environment. And I'll describe some new positions and roles that may be needed for DCTs. So let's talk about DCTs. The use of decentralized trials has been increasing, and that is because they offer more options for patients. They're convenient. A patient doesn't have to travel to a site for a visit. They remove geographic barriers for patients that don't live near sites. And both of these things lead to better enrollment and retention, and likely greater diversity of patient population. This structure can also produce higher quality data. More frequent patient communication allows more real-time reporting of adverse events. More data is available in real time for immediate action if needed. The use of wearables and other technologies can eliminate or reduce data transcription and any associated errors. I want to spend a moment to level set on a description of DCT. This table compares traditional trials to decentralized trials. First is site selection. Instead of many sites, there may be as few as one site. And with fewer sites, startup is faster. Patients are recruited centrally using technology. They're consented electronically and enrolled virtually through telemedicine. Rather than a patient coming to a site, the visit location is patient-centric, using telemedicine or home health. The drug is shipped to the patient's home, and any assessments like labs or imaging are done at a convenient location. Data is collected through technology rather than transcribed into EDC. All monitoring is virtual, and patients are queried directly about the data. We're also seeing a large increase in hybrid trials, which are traditional trials that incorporate some elements of DCTs, like telemedicine. So what is the impact on traditional site roles? The first big question, will decentralized trials eliminate the need for sites? Certainly, fully decentralized trials work well for some indications, but not everything. And the working group believes the vast majority of trials will remain traditional or become hybrid. Will my position at the site be eliminated? With the majority of trials being traditional or hybrid, the traditional site roles will still be needed. So what's the biggest change? Well, rather than a threat, as virtual elements are added, we see that many traditional roles will have new flexibility. For example, coordinators could work remotely 1 or more days a week when all of their patient interaction is virtual. We do believe DCTs will continue to evolve, and many on-site roles will have a virtual component. We ask site staff, what special knowledge is needed for hybrid trials? This is what they told us. Best practices for telemedicine, best practices to update SOP workflows, like how to obtain vital signs remotely, how to confirm patient identity for e-consent, how to ensure protected health information is secure when working remotely or transmitting patient diaries, regulations for working remotely as well as data transmission, which aspects of the trial will be performed remotely, best practices demonstrating PI oversight for remote activities, and the appropriate budget for additional activities. Clinical research is currently experiencing transformational change, and use of technology will continue to increase. It's better for patients and can improve enrollment and retention. It increases data quality. It's allowing more flexibility in traditional jobs, and it's creating some new roles. Your peers recommend having a good attitude about change is important, and they believe adaptability and flexibility are the top skills needed for success. And don't forget to have patience with others who are navigating this for the first time, patients, sites, and sponsors. And finally, recognize what this opportunity can mean for you and your career.
So Kim, we are going to pick your brain and are looking forward to hear your thoughts and perspective from your 30 years in clinical research. We have received some great questions, so I'm going to start off with the first one. Did it surprise you that soft skills were so highly ranked as necessary for DCTs? And why did you think that was?
Thanks, Margaret. So yes, it did initially surprise us, but when you think about it, it really makes sense. This is a time of huge change in our industry, and a big part of managing change is attitude. So if you have a mindset of flexibility and adaptability, you're going to have a better avenue to success. One person in the survey commented, "Change is here, so you better get on board or else you'll be left behind." And I think that's what we're hearing mostly from the survey.
Kimberly, thank you again for today's presentation. We'd also like to thank our audience members for joining us today and for submitting their questions. I also invite everyone to review our content offerings regularly, as we are continually adding new courses and webinars in various areas of research, ethics, compliance, and professional development.